only within the UN, but in the wider network on SDG localization and local governments that we have the pleasure to share and animate globally. I'm Martino Miraglia, the coordinator of the SDG localization and local governments team within UN Habitat Nairobi, and I will accompany you throughout today's session. This SDG module 2 is part of a larger effort that UN Habitat together with UCLG, UNDP, the Global Task Force, the Barcelona, and other partners have been conducting for a few years in really raising the voices of local and regional governments and strengthening their capacities on the SDGs and sustainable development. But I am tasked also to share with you a few housekeeping rules. When you're not speaking, please keep your microphones mute. The sessions for today is in English and it's recorded. Also, please do use the chat to introduce yourself, to raise questions for our speakers, and we will have time for question and answers a bit later throughout the session after the launch of the module. Without further ado, I think that we have now, I will pass the floor to our opening speakers. Not the first time that I have the chance to introduce these two speakers, hopefully not the last one. It has been quite a long and an exciting process together. Our first speaker is Emilia Seitz, Secretary General of UCLG. Emilia, the floor is yours for your introduction.
Thank you very much, Martino. Indeed, I am certain it will not be the last time that we come together to discuss localization and what it means for cities, for local and regional governments to actually be involved in the transformation that we need to meet the global agendas. And I refer to global agendas on purpose and not limit myself to the sustainable development goals that this module is oriented towards, because from the perspective of local and regional governments,
I'm sorry, Emilia, you just got muted.
I got muted because there was an echo, but it wasn't my echo. It was someone else's. So I hope you can hear me fine now. No, yes. I was saying that for local and regional governments, the global agendas are, in fact, are one single agenda. I mean, obviously, for policy making processes, we try to split the type of problems and challenges that we are addressing. But from the perspective of a government, the decision-making body as complex as the territories and local and regional governments, the global agenda, in fact, is one single and universal. And the Sustainable Development Goals are just that very common language and the expression of what we are trying to achieve. And a lot of the backup and the muscle that needs to be worked on to get there is contained in other very relevant agendas that also UN Habitat with us is safeguarding, like the new urban agenda. And this learning module is very significant in the connection of those two agendas. How do you shape your cities, but also how do you contribute to sustainability of the planet and of humanity? That is what this exercise is about. And so I am very happy to see how our long-standing partnership of UN Habitat and United Cities and local governments continues to thrive around not only advocacy on policy, on critical policy for local and regional governments, but also around learning. And learning is a very important instrument for us to feed into our advocacy, into our recommendation, and is built also from the kind of research that we develop together. The modules on localization that we have been implementing over the past years are a very good example of that. And before I got here to this session, I was asking our team, how many people have been trained or have been learning from these modules? And the team was speculating that we could easily say that thousands of local and regional government officials or people that are active in our ecosystem have been using that. I think this is a matter of pride. And I am also certain that without that, we would not have been able to ensure that localization was regarded as a high priority in the SDG summit just some months ago. So I think that we need to build from here, but also admit that the experiences that we put in place through the localization of the global agendas are not experiences that are fixed forever, that we learn things together, that things evolve, that we need to update based on the experiences that we have been exchanging, and also connecting to the fact that our world is changing, that we are facing new challenges and some increased challenges that will need to play a very important role in the planning of our cities and territories for the future. I think climate change is a very is taking now a very evident shape everywhere, from heat to floods, is changing the type of needs that communities have. And I think that learning around localization will need to take a very strong note of that. Also, some of the impacts that we will see happening in territories around resilience and adaptation, new conceptions about community building, will be a very important part of the planning of cities for the future. So I would like to end these introductory words by saying that localization for the local and regional governments constituency is not about monitoring or implementing only. It's a political process that you need to develop in full, where you need to learn and you will need to monitor. But at the end of the day, the aim is the transformation. And I think that very concept is one that unites United Cities and local governments, the global task force members, and UN Habitat. I think our experience around the development and the deploying of these models has been excellent. And I look forward not only to more of what we do well, but to better work together. And above all, Martino and Shipra, I have to be honest, I look forward to more investment and to more acknowledgement from the international community in these processes. It is great to have the words in there, but now, you know, the finance needs to flow. And it's not about flowing to UN Habitat or UCLG, it's about flowing to the cities, the territories that need it most. So thank you again. Thank you to my own team also in UCLG that are true learning warriors around localization and SDGs. I feel as if I am preaching to the choir, because obviously you all are very committed to this, but don't underestimate how relevant it is for me to see this growing community playing a role and holding us accountable as we develop further policy linked with the next steps, the summit of the future and beyond. I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you, Shipra, also for being a diehard and sticking around. And Martino, back to you once again. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Emilia. Indeed, it's a source of pride, and I personally say that I'm also proud not only for what we are able to put together, but also for all those local officials that have decided to be trained, that have decided to learn, that have decided to really strengthen their capacities through these processes. And indeed, the localization is not about monitoring, but it's about how do we use monitoring? How do we use the monitoring for the financing, for the politics, for the advocacy, for everything else that hopefully will also bring us to a summit of the future where localization is going to be that transformative game for what comes next. And with these words, I will pass it to Shipra, Chief of the Urban Practices Branch, Senior Focal Point for Local Governments and Localization within UN Habitat. Over to you, Shipra.
Thanks, Martino. And next time, I'm not going to speak after Amelia. It's impossible. This is an impossible task. Great to see you, Amelia. Great to see colleagues and friends and partners and co-conspirators from around the world who are plotting and scheming and joining forces really to advance this agenda together. Greetings to everybody from Nairobi. Which also, by the way, I'm going to come to your issue, your point about climate change, Amelia. We're in the throes of climate change here, experiencing the changing climate every day, and guess who's at the forefront of addressing these issues? The county governments. Without adequate empowerment, without adequate resources, struggling every day, but there they are. So, these are live examples of why what we are doing today is so important. A huge thanks to the rest of your team as well, Amelia, the UCLG learning team, Sarah, everyone on board for the fantastic partnership that we've had over so many years. And before I get into it, because one can forget, a big thanks upfront to my team as well. Martino, led by Martino, but also Claudia, Marta, Caroline, Gaia, whose beautiful voice you heard in that video, Sophie, everyone who's been working tirelessly over the past many months to get us here. This is really colleagues, can I please ask you to keep muted if you're not speaking? Thank you. A big thanks also to all the speakers who are joining us today and who are going to be sharing their thoughts and their experiences, as well as all those connected, all the partners and local government representatives and networks who are here. It's really an important day for us today. It's a day really to celebrate a milestone for in this road in this journey of capacity building for SDG localization. It's 7 years after the launch of the first module in 2017. And this module really has taken a lot of experience of the past 7 years and provides new insights, explores new practices, proposes new ways, new interactive approaches, games, interesting ways, interesting tools to guide local governments, institutions through the mainstreaming of the SDGs in their planning efforts. And indeed, like Amelia said, it's not just the SDGs. The SDGs are a broad name, or a broad term that we use, a cover term that we use for really all the global agendas, which are interconnected and which play out at the local level in an interconnected manner. This module series, the SDG Localization Module series, builds on the strong partnership between UCLG, UN Habitat, UNDP, as well as the Diputació of Barcelona, the Global Task Force, and the European Commission. And it's part of our continued engagement towards building capacities of local governments and making local action central in the political agendas of the UN and every single member state. Colleagues, for those of you who remember, last year, 9 years after the endorsement of the 2030 Agenda, member states gathered in Nairobi for the second session of the UN Habitat Assembly and adopted for the first time a resolution on localizing the SDGs. At the same time, the Secretary General of the United Nations launched his advisory committee, his advisory group on local and regional governments. These are very important, unprecedented political achievements. It's not every day that these kinds of achievements are seen. And really a big thanks to everybody, Emilia, under your leadership, as well as everyone else who has collectively contributed to these important successes. But we can't sit on our laurels. There is no time to rest. There is a lot that remains to be done. And this is where I come to the point I started with in the beginning. Over the past several weeks, from Kenya to Brazil to Delhi, the impact of climate change has created floods and heat waves affecting thousands of communities, and mostly affecting the poor and the poorest in those communities. On an everyday basis, kids still need to walk miles to reach their schools, with privatized transport too expensive for many families to pay for, and local governments having no money to invest in public transport systems. Mothers lack adequate health care. Women, generally speaking, are still affected by unequal access to jobs and opportunities almost everywhere in the world. These are just a few examples. Poverty, we heard last year, for the first time, has risen in many decades in the post-COVID era. Addressing these challenges means transforming our governance systems, our development systems, putting multi-level coordination, local leadership, delivery of basic services at the center of our efforts. And building and strengthening the capacities of our local and regional governments, we believe, is the right place to start and accelerate this change. This updated module that we're talking about today, that we're launching today on planning for change with the SDGs, looks at local level planning as a catalyst for effective SDG implementation and directly responds to the global call launched by the resolution on localizing the SDGs to empower our local institutions. It's particularly close to my heart because at UN Habitat, the planning agenda has over the last decade become absolutely central as an instrument, as an approach, as a set of tools to advance, to make progress towards the global goals, whether it's climate or it's poverty or it's gender equity or any of the others. But let me highlight 2 points here. First, achieving the SDGs means adopting spatial approaches to sustainable development. We're not going to be able to disconnect the two. Why? Because when you talk about a leaving no one behind agenda, very often it is reflected in spatial terms. Improving the quality of life of our communities passes through the establishment of care systems and delivery of basic services in an equitable fashion at the local level. Doing so efficiently and in the long term means adopting spatially nuanced, spatially relevant, tailored approaches to planning and development, being able to grasp the needs and priorities and gaps and the context of every single community, every single neighborhood, every single city, every single territory. In that sense, from one side, planning creates the bridge connecting the functions and mandates of local governments in SDG implementation. On the other hand, adopting SDG principles means elevating territorial planning to key processes for delivering holistic and transformative change to local communities. The second point I must highlight here, that it is the local governments which are responsible for transforming plans into impact. And therefore, they must have that capacity. A big barrier to achieving the SDGs is the lack of technical and human capacities within public institutions, along with inadequate resources to reaching to the local level. Emilia, you flagged this point, but the capacity point is also very important. And by the way, it's not accidental. We have heard from Mariana Mazzucato, we've heard from others that there has been a systematic weakening of public sector capacities over the past decades. This is not accidental. We have more and more consulting firms, we have more and more private sector entities coming in with planning solutions, with governance solutions, but really it is the public sector capacity that we have weakened and that we should be really aiming to build up. Institutional capacity building and financing are at the core of the 4 engine room actions that have been highlighted, along with the 6 transitions that were adopted during the SDG Summit last year. And the engine room actions are considered key enablers to deliver on those 6 transitions. So this module is both timely and essential. We aim to train future public officials to fill the planning and implementation gaps affecting delivery at the local level. As we launch module 2 today, we're really excited also to say that we're already preparing for its first rollout during the Georgia National Urban Forum in Tbilisi in 2 weeks' time. We also have the World Urban Forum coming up, where we will have a number of sessions around SDG localization, but also a specific session, a training session during the forum in Cairo, which will be in November 4th to 8th, if you don't know the dates already. So let me stop there. Let me conclude by wishing all of you the very best for the discussions, but also for the uptake of this module. Let's all embrace it, take it up, adopt it, roll it out, share it widely, because everyone, as Emilia was saying, everyone who has been part of these trainings is ultimately co-opted and a champion of this work on localization of the SDGs. We really count on each and every one of you to take up this agenda and drive it forward in whichever context you're operating in, whether at the local or subnational or national or global. Thank you very much again, and back to you, Martino.
Thank you very much, Shipra, and let me join your call for adopting, sharing, and implementing together this module. I think if that's the case, I promised it's a great one, and well, I think it's a moment to launch it. Thank you, Shipra. Thank you, Emilia, and well, I think that we can call, if you agree with me, I think that we can call the module out and ask for our teams to put exactly. The module is already on the chat. You can have a look at it, and it's public. Please do feel free to have a look. And while I thank again Emilia and Shipra for their opening words and for their engagement, really, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to have two leaders of this process and of this community like you have been over the past years. And I can tell you from someone that gets inspiration every day from your work. So thank you again, and I will while everyone is having a look at the links, I will pass the floor to the big mind behind this module, not only this one, but behind the module series, Sarah Oeflich, which has been leading the UCLG learning process team and everything going behind it over the past years, for giving us an overview of what the module looks like, what we aim to do with it, and a big thank personally on behalf of UN Habitat for the great partnership with UCLG Learning. We are delighted to have been working, to have had the chance to be working with you. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Martino, and thank you very much, Emilia and Shipra, for this celebrative opening. It is really nice to see in the end. It was a long process, but it is taken up also by my leadership. I know Emilia is looking into this with really patience and details, and we see that the learning, as she said, is a contributor to everyday new stories around localization and everyday more impact. So even small impacts deserve celebration. So I'm really proud that we have today 150 participants joining us. And for me in particular, as I'm also in the background, I'm urban planner, and now it's 12 years we did a policy paper on urban strategic planning, where we put into emphasis the importance of governance in planning. And now I see with this module, we have really achieved to join these two worlds, because before the worlds of planning, strategic planning and political planning and urban planning looked like a bit separated. But I think we have done a very good contribution, not only with the module, but all with this process that is behind it. And it's a lot of teamwork. It's a lot of consultation to our members, to our sections, but also to all the experts of UN Habitat and also the other UN agencies that are all on board. So I think this is not only for us, for Claudia and myself, from UCLG, a great moment, but also, a milestone in this important co-creation. And we are convinced that we will go very far with this work. So I would like to share you some slides so that you get also an understanding what we are talking about. And let me know if you can see it.
Yes, not in full page, yes, and not yet in a full page, full screen, sorry.
Yeah, okay, let me go there. Okay, now you should.
Yes, exactly.
So, the module is not only, but also a physical element. So if you look at the link, you can download and have a book in your hands, but it is not a book. The module is an instruction for trainers of trainers, and you will see it is not only to read information, but it invites you to put your own information, your own experience, and your own cases into a learning process that hopefully inspire much more because you want to use it. So maybe here to say something also on the authors. Today, Sid Blanco is not with us, but I also would like to announce that he has also, as a consultant, we have asked him to be an author together with Claudia, and he has done a very, very good work, and I just want also to recall this. The objective of the module, I think this was already said, inside the localization process, the modules have the territorial connection, the connection with your practice, with everyday planning, with people who are stressed out, but believe in localization and believe in SDG and believe in future and connecting. So for them, this is a module, and our objective is, of course, to bring, in this case, the SDG agenda into the local planning processes and vice versa. And here in this module, in particular, the spatial dimension, the territorial dimension has been addressed, and you will see later how. All the modules have a very particular methodology. It was already said by Shipra and Martino. We do a lot of gaming, but we also want you to be not necessarily trainer, but facilitating processes inside your local government, inside your organization. So everything that you do, you can see it under the umbrella. How do I apply it in my groups, in my territories, with my communities? And for this, you will have always this small indication, how much time, what kind of lecture. You will have a basic slide to use. You will have exercises, and you will have handouts. So we have, you might wonder, if we have 4 modules, why do we now have a module 2? This is not the first module 2. The first module 2 was actually designed in 2018. And by that, we know with Martino, because he was working for UNDP, and we did this together very much with the UNDP art program. But we also saw that it was looking very much into the planning as a piece of government. So meaning that planning, of course, can also be a roadmap for government. How do I go for the next years? How do I project the next decade? And it was not going so much into urban planning. So this revision is now really into it. And this is extremely valuable that UN Habitat has contributed that much, not only by writing and really being part of the team of Martino, but also all the other areas. So now we are, when we go back to the 2016, when we established a roadmap, this partnership got robust and is now what we would call the localization movement, as Emilia and Shipra just referred to. So if we look now a little bit into the topic of the module 2, we have a spatial and a strategic approach. So we will connect in the module the tasks of local government that, of course, are very, very much service provision. But when this connects to the SDG, we have the localizing, and the localizing is not only planning, it is also awareness, creating narratives, reporting. So there's a lot to take up, policy making, but with a planning angle well embedded, we will have also many possibility for technical work. For example, the use of data, the use of indicators, and of course, a planning on infrastructure services, land use, etc. So all this will be lead to a more impactful and measurable, sustainable spatial development that makes the city so unique. And if we look in this first part, the government, so the strategic planning, we know governments are sometimes very big. Some cities have 40,000 staffers, others have very slow and slim small units. But mostly all they want to improve their institutional efficiency, better budgeting. They want to work with more evidence. We have, of course, by today, enormous amount and opportunity on data, how we make it useful. The partnership with civil society, this is the other big change in the last 2 decades, that this is now not only voluntary, it is constructed. We will hear later from Aman how this works in practice. We look into the local service provision, into how to sustain, how to improve, how to finance. And of course, we look also into capacity building and local planning and regulation. And probably there are much more, but these are all possible entrance points in a government for localization of the SDG. So the opportunities are huge, and we know that SDGs are still very much in the government, in international work, but more and more strategic planners, urban planners take it up. Also engineers, service provision, we can see that the SDG have really sounded. And it is so helpful because we have not only 17, for example, water speaks to very particular stakeholders, but we also have all the integral inspiration the SDGs provide. So if we look into the practice, how are we organized? We have 4 chapters that look into generic introduction, planning processes, then the principles, and finally into the spatial planning and the urban planning. So if we look into the chapter 1, how does it work? You will see always what you will learn. You will understand the SDG better, the relationship. You will bring the SDG into a reflection, how is government functioning, and find that this is the SDG are extremely helpful because actually they are not only speaking to government, but also to every person, because it is really an important agenda that everybody knows about. And in the order, it is always a similar order: introduction, then you have lectures, and finally you have exercises. So for example, in this first chapter, we look into how government is functioning, and it's very interesting. This we have tested many times. What, for example, health, you would say, oh, maybe only water services, because they have to look into hygienics, are important for health. But you will find many departments working on health and looking into a target like the 3.6 in a local government themselves. And then, of course, also in other governments, because local government is very depending on national government, in particular financially, but also often regulatory frameworks and other other relations, they depend a lot. And of course, there are regional government, there are also stakeholder groups, they are NGOs, and these many actors, they all bring a competence or an activity and can help the public policy to improve. So that is a very simple table where then on the which we use for group discussions, and often in these discussions there are many lines up, hands up. Oh yes, we are doing a lot for the SDG, and it is a very big motivation for the departments to work together. That, as we know, is one of the approaches we need to address. If we look into the SDG agenda, the SDG 11, we are very proud of SDG 11. We have been fighting for this, but it is not at all a silo. It is 100% connected to all other SDGs. And of course, when we look into it, it is important not only to gain one or another indicators, but look into this interconnection that is when we look at it in the daily practice. Again, very inspiring because it calls for other results to be, for example, included in planning or in voluntary reviews. So this interconnection is very helpful to first accept and then to use it. In the chapter 2, we are looking into local planning processes. So these are the key concepts. It is not possible to make a planning without implementation. So this is also one thing we have been fighting for in the territorial guidelines, but we are now, I think planning has really made 2 steps downwards from the sometimes very hierarchical relation planning had in governments because of this more stakeholder involvement, and second, because you are measured by implementation. So planning without impact is just exercise. So we can see here, this is a policies. We look into what are the key concepts of urban and territorial planning and what are the key stages. And then how can SDG be aligned into the strategic planning processes? That is the political process, as I mentioned before. So, of course, symbiotic relationship, planning and SDG connect in many, many ways. They fall into responsibilities and competences of local governments. We always use the 60% number of local implementation of SDG, but we also see on the contrary, in the other direction, that the SDG are providing a framework to carry out more integrated and sustainable local planning processes, as I said before. So if we look at it in stages, we have this is what we call our policy cycle. Before we had a policy cycle much more complex. However, it was also very useful and very related. We have simplified this, but of course, always to remember strategic planning without implementation and monitoring and without evaluation and reporting is not complete. So this is in particular if you do a government plan, a government strategy, whatever you want to achieve. And this has the several steps that also are circular. So if you assess needs, you do your priorities, you do your strategy, you do your budgeting, programming, and you set up a monitoring framework. The SDG localizing process, we always say, can enter into any phase, hopefully with budgeting, but it can also start with prioritization or formulation. It depends very much if a mayor has started. For example, when a mayor is just recently, and then you have a new government team, you might do a prioritization. But if you are just evaluating your programs, don't forget that this inform again the planning process, and it can happen at any time. And then, yeah, finally, here the chapter 3, this is the integration of the SDG principles into local planning processes. And this is quite inspiring, and we have been using this a lot already because we saw that it's not only the indicator framework. For example, many of the cities, when they for example, Chefchaouen, one of our cities that is very close to us, when they do their stages, they look into almost everything, and they say the SDG with this framework forces us to report immediately. So we want to look more into the principles and how do we look for this in every space, in every program. We can address the principle because these principles are really expressing sustainability, and if we apply it in our territory, it will not sound abstract. And of course, this is very important because we also address here policy making. And if we look into the principles and policy making, it's very, very important to keep practical. So if we want planning to be transformative and catalytic to improve the development, these principles help to structure discussions, because sometimes we have only stakeholders who might say, oh, we need to leave no one behind, or in, let's say, in Nairobi, you have who want only this, and the city feels that they have not enough power, so the multi-level governance, how can they overcome it? And very, very important, the accountability, because this is one of the main principles we hammer, because again, in particular for planner and for impact to be tested. Here for this one, we always use a game. So you can look out of your window and you will see any public space. And you can always think about the principles, applying it to any public space. So this is the idea, to improve whatever is possible. And we have for this is very practical example. And now finally, we have the last chapter, which is then the urban planning chapter. This is a very spatial chapter, and it is not only looking into space and land use, but also in looking how to use your data and how to organize that and support decision making. And these are the spatial approach is looking first, of course, in the territories and land use, but also we look into appropriate use of local indicators. And here for these chapters, it is not only a very fast introduction of urban planning and what urban planning and service and building and urban development can contribute to SDGs or not, but it is also here a very quick insight on how to do and how can I be a planner and having fun. And I think here we have two games which my colleague Claudia could introduce. Claudia, if you are there, can you take the floor?
Yes, of course. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So thank you, Sara. So as Sara just said, as part of this update of our module 2, we have developed 2 new games. These 2 new games, you can find them in chapter 4. So this first game, called Defining Appropriate Local Indicators, focuses on the use of indicators to evaluate the impact of urban interventions. This game is played by teams, where each team is assigned a real and existing urban initiative. Then there are 2 phases. In the first phase, each team has to make a list of possible indicators to measure the impact of the action that has been assigned to them, always bearing in mind that the indicators must be measurable and realistic in terms of the possibility of being obtained by the local administration. And then in the second phase, each team has to choose from a set of indicators. You have here an image showing one of these indicators cards, and they have to choose which are the most appropriate indicators to measure the impact of this action that they obtain at the beginning of the exercise. And in this case, the indicators, this set of indicators that we are using are official SDGs indicators. So the game then closes with a plenary discussion about what has been worked during the exercise, and a final reflection. This is something we always try to do with our games, is a final reflection on a comparison on the participants' own realities in their own territories. So this is the first game that we have developed. I don't know if you want me to. Okay, you want to first introduce a little bit? Perfect.
Of course, here we have done a double shot, we could say. Many of you maybe have heard about the 15-minute cities. So we have looked at this concept from a more urban angle, and not necessarily from a large city, but from a small, or for any city or peripheral neighborhood. And because we believe in proximity, and we think that also the planning of the future is not only thinking in new territories and greenfield, but very much in recovering and regenerating quality neighborhoods. So the access to the main needs within walkable distance, because of course the car-based planning is long over, must also be practical, and that's why we have dedicated a game to this.
I
have the Claudia, do you want to continue?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. So this second game, which is also part of this chapter 4, is called Building Sustainable Proximities, the 15-minute neighborhood. And it is a bit more complex than the one on the indicators. I won't go into much detail today, but I can assure that it's really fun. So in this game, participants, they become urban planners, and they have to generate actions that can improve the quality of life of the residents of a peripheral neighborhood and reduce the environmental impact of their actions by guaranteeing their access to the main services, amenities, and opportunities within a 15-minute walking distance. So how is this concretely achieved in the game? As you can see on the left of the slide, we have a grid. This is the neighborhood, and this grid will help us measure the distance between the different elements, and therefore the time. You can see there are different elements. You see the building blocks, parking lots, informal settlements, etc. This is all accompanied by this legend, this board information. And again, this game is played by teams, and each team addresses a specific social function and has a designated budget. So this means that you can just carry out any initiative you want. You have budgetary limits, as is the case in real life. The social functions that you can see here on the right of the slide are the 6 categories from which inhabitants can cover their basic needs. These are learning, living, supplying, caring, enjoying, and working. So the goal is that at the end of the game, when all the actions of the different teams are put together, the inhabitants of this neighborhood must have the maximum number of social functions covered within a 15-minute walk. So, and to assess whether the teams have achieved this goal or not, there's an evaluation chart at the beginning and at the end of the game, according to the pillars of the 3 pillars of sustainability, that is social inclusion, environmental protection, and economic prosperity. And that is the game in a nutshell. It's a 90-minute game, so 19-minute long game. So I've just gone very quickly through it, but we really look forward to rolling these 2 games out with you if you're interested in conducting a training session on Module 2 with us. Sarah, I give you the word again to close this segment. I think you're muted.
Thank you very much. Claudia, this was good. And also because here you can see how games are functioning. So like the 15 minutes game, the public space game, and we call it the tables. These are all teamwork games that will contribute to joint reflection, and that's why some of our members use them. For example, Cuenca or Konya in Turkey, they use them also inside governments. And this is, of course, we always say don't use it disconnected, because this is all part of a process. But we also know that many times, for if you are in participatory processes, that this kind of animation and gamification is extremely helpful. So that's it. And for those who have not downloaded the link and opened the link and have followed our presentation instead, you can also scan and get direct access to the modules. And of course, more will come. This is not the total final version. There are some elements we have to still fine tune, but it's all 90%. Thank you very much. And back to Martino.
Thanks a lot, Sarah, Claudia. It's extremely proud of the product, of the cooperation, of what this partnership has been able to deliver. And I think that worth mentioning also the fact that as Sarah and Claudia have shown, this module builds on years of practice of different partners, and we have had also the chance to consult both internally within our institutions as well as externally through advisory groups. I won't mention all the institutions that have been involved, but if you open the module, you will see them, and in the acknowledgement page, it has been a beautiful process of co-creation. It's now for us to stop talking and to give the word to our partners. For the second part of the session, we're going to have a panel with different speakers, and I will give the floor to my colleague Claudia Garcia for moderating this part of the workshop. Over to you, Claudia.
Thanks a lot, Martino, and thank you everyone for joining us today. It's a very important day for I guess for localization, because this marks, as it has been mentioned, a good milestone for local learning and for local development. Now we are going to hear the experiences from practitioners and from experts that are actually integrating the SDGs in their planning processes and in their work. We have with us, let's say, colorful and multi-stakeholder partnership panel, that is formed by Alexander Amado, representing Plan Up, which is the Competence Center for Planning, Policy and Foresight in Public Administration of Portugal. We also have Rima Ode, the Executive Director for Planning of Greater Amman Municipality in Jordan. And finally, also representing the civil society, we have Diana Dager, the Manager of Citizen Participation at the Fundación Corona in Colombia. I will start with the first speaker, with Alexander, but before that, just let me remind you the 5 minutes rule. I will ask you 2 questions and kindly ask you to keep in mind the time. And I apologize in advance if I have to cut you through your interventions to keep them on. After these interventions, we will open the floor for discussion. So please, if you come up with some questions, you are also welcome to share them on the chat, and we will pick them back during the open floor discussion. So that being said, dear Alessandra, welcome. Within Plan Up, we know that you have been working on many topics related to the 2030 agenda, such as the 2023 VNR process in Portugal, and you have also contributed to the coordination of the Portuguese 2030 National Sustainable Development Roadmap. So based on your experience and on Plan Up's experience, could you tell us about Portugal's experience in coordinating SDG planning and monitoring with regional and local governments? Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you all. It's an honor to be here and a pleasure. First of all, congratulations by your fantastic work. This is a very important team. My academic background is in territorial engineering, so urban planning means a lot to me. So it's good to see these steps forward that you are making. To respect the 5 minutes rule, so we no more delongings. First of all, Plan Up don't have direct intervention over spatial and territorial planning process between the different levels of government. As I am, we can say representing Portugal, I can give you just overview about the territorial planning and the urban planning policy that it's organized by the General Basis Law for Public Land Policy, which starts with the National Territory Planning Policy Program. We call it the PNPOT. After my intervention, I can also display several of and share with you several links, so you can then see it in more detail. Although it is in Portuguese, Google Translate can solve it. This detail regarding. So we have the general basis law, and we have the national program. After this, we have some regional programs, and after that, we have the municipal urban master plans. And at least according to the law, all these have to respect the upper defined strategies. But this is not directly related with my work in PlanApp, just to give you an overview. In PlanApp, while we were developing the VNR, we have all the focus group and collecting information regarding the 230 agenda implementation, namely with the regional level, with the 5 Portuguese regional coordination and development commissions, and at the national level with the two authorities representing it's the National Association of Portuguese Municipalities and also the National Association of Parish. And also a questionnaire was sent to in the perspective of the whole of government. A questionnaire was sent to the different ministries and also to the 2 autonomous regions that we have here, the Madeira and the Açores. Let me just check the time. Okay, 3 minutes, so I have 2 minutes to finish just this brief review. So PlanUp was responsible for the VNR coordination, and we are also responsible for deepening the alignment methodologies and the contribution, for example, of the major option laws, and that now includes the alignment between the measures that we established there with the 230 agenda, and also the National Reform Program also contain now alignment with the SDGs. At the regional level, what were the main findings through the VNR process? First of all, their competence. The competence of the regional authorities is on management of contributions of the cohesion policy, from the European Commission. It's to drawing up and reviewing the regional and spatial planning plans, the PROTs that I said it's below the national plans. The technical support that these regional authorities give to the municipalities, and also the coordination in several areas of competence with different society associations. And from this consultation process, what we gather some suggestions, like promote the standardization of practice between these different regional entities, conduct downstream analysis and planning of strategies and actions that are interlinked, also promote the systematic internalization of the SDGs, and also adapt the indicators and targets to the national, regional, and local context. And with this said, with the roadmap, we are now starting the adaptation of the UN indicators to our national context. And this is also something that has to be developed at the regional and local context. I guess I reach 5 minutes. I don't know if I have time just to give small words about the local government.
Yes, please go ahead, Alexander.
Well, the local government, what the main findings were, it's although we have some achievements at this level, we have some voluntary local reports already developed, but we only have 5 from our 300. And pursuing the SDGs is still not clear for the municipalities. And also municipalities have some limitations in terms of human and financial resources, that this is something that is needed. And also the capacitation that is also needed at the different levels. And so this kind of capacitation that we are here developing is also very needed here. And also the establishment of coordination mechanisms for all entities, as we said, besides the regional, but also we have the metropolitan areas, we have local authorities, we have also intermunicipal communities. So this is, and in the very fast way, the main findings that we found from the VNR.
Thank you very much, Alexander, for this overview, presenting the findings at the different levels from the VNR. And indeed, I think it's very important, the multi-level connection, the multi-level coordination. This is something that is also stressed across the module, because it differs from country to country, how the mandates of the different levels of governments are represented, and also how planning works in each country. So it's very interesting, the experience of Portugal. And I just wanted to ask you if maybe you could give us one example that could reflect the use of the SDGs at the local level in Portugal.
Mm-hmm. Just related to what you have just said, regarding our roadmap, for example, we have a strategic objective that is directly related with the PCSD, the Policy Coherence for Sustainable Development, and also aggregates all these concepts. At least we are trying to develop it at the national level, and this may consolidate this view that you also propose in your model. Going to the concrete example, regarding the regional entities, we have a contract program was signed this year because these entities have changed their type of entity, is now a public institution, and so it has been celebrated a contract program that establish objectives, indicators, and targets and priorities at the regional level, which have impact on the regional development, but also that these regional entities may force the municipalities also to achieve these targets and these goals. Two more very fast examples. We have 5 areas, and for example, the center region have developed the Central Portugal Barometer that reports the contributions of this region for the SDGs, and they're also in the GRC international project to harmonize coherent framework at the monitoring the progress of the SDGs. And at the local level, we have the 5 municipalities that have already developed the voluntary local review, and we have also the ODS local platform that demonstrates, for example, the number of municipalities that have signed up and the best practice that we have at the local level, and also have a report on localization. I think in the audience there is some member of this platform.
Thank you very much.
Just to give you 3 examples, and I will share the link and feel free to any question. Thank you.
Please share the links on the chat. I'm sure that many of the participants here will be keen to explore in detail the work that you have presented. So thank you for this very good and insightful thoughts and comments. And indeed, we will come back to you during the Q&A section to see if there are questions for you on the experience. Thank you very much. And from the national level now, we move to the local experience. And as I was mentioning before, we have Rima Ode from Greater Amman Municipality. Rima, as Executive Director for Planning, has experience in working with a diverse range of planning schemes and plans for Amman. And more recently, Rima is leading the committee which works on preparing an urban planning bylaw for Amman. Maybe Rima, you can tell us more about this experience. But it is well known that Amman is an SDG champion regionally and internationally. And we would like to hear from you, and based on your experience, how does Amman promote the integration of the SDGs in local plans? And if you could share some of the challenges and opportunities that Amman has in this regard. Over to you, Rima. I think you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Claudia. And I thank the UCLG team for giving us the chance to showcase our experience in Amman and what challenges do we have as local planners and experts in working in the municipality. Just allow me to share my screen.
I think you should be able to share your own screen, but let us know otherwise.
I don't know. I think I have a problem with, yeah, if you have you have my presentation now.
We have your presentation. I'm asking Claudia to please put it on the screen for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I congratulate you all for launching the module today. I will be sharing my presentation about the challenges that Amman City face and some and how do we mainstream some SDGs goals and during our in our planning exercises and practices in Amman and for Amman. Please next. Okay, this is just to give you an idea about the growth of Amman from the 1925 until it is until 20,000. Until 20,000. And Amman is of an area of 800 square kilometers. Next, please. We have a very a challenge in the young population, as the population age group between like 0 to 39 is almost exceeding 51% of the total of the population of Amman, which puts a load on the local government and the national government of the number of employees and the housing also, and the type of housing that has to be provided for this type of age group. Next. Next, please. Okay, these are the challenges that Amman City face. I think most cities face same challenges all over the world, but our because Amman has almost 42% of the population of the whole of Jordan. This also puts this also has some problems with the capacity of the infrastructure and what's happening and what has to be provided and types of all services to in the capital itself in Amman. One of the main challenges also, we have the traffic congestion all over the city all during the time, because most of the employment land is as commercial and industrial land is within the capital of Amman. So this brings traffic and people traveling all the time to the city. Next, please. This is very interesting because, and this is very challenging at the same time, because as planners, we have to look at figures and we have to look at the percentage of land uses and distribution of land uses all over the city. If you see, the green is almost like 1 to 2% only out of the whole zoned land, not the total area of Amman city, is only parks and greens, which is very challenges. Which puts which is very challenging for us as planners when you do proper planning. If we look at the 15 minutes neighborhood planning, that we take care of this in the coming future if we have to plan well for the city. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, and this is also very important because wherever the red is, we have the high heat, where also shows again that the distribution and the lacking of the open space and the green spaces in the city. This also gives, we as planner have to keep this in mind while doing proper planning for Amman. Next, please. At the same time, this is also an interesting figure where it shows the privately owned vehicles is almost like has the 34% of the total of the traffic in the city, while the public transport, sadly, until now it is almost catches up to 13% only. Next. We started our planning exercises not too early. We started only in 2006, 2007. But at that time, we told everyone that we need an MGP, Metropolitan Growth Strategy, where we define the priorities of the city and where we can control the sprawl of the city, and where do we have to set strategies and policies to keep the green, to keep the city greener. And it's not only a plan. Through our work as planners, we invested and we executed that in a way or another in taking decisions over the type of zoning that has to be in the west of Amman, because most of the agricultural land and the greenery of Amman is in the west of the area of it. And we could like keep control of that, and we could save whatever the natural heritage of the city and in that area. Next. And at the same time, we were telling everyone this is if we are going to do and work through any planning regime, we have to think of all the directions horizontally and vertically of any planning exercise. It's not only the local government. We as GAM, we plan alone. It is somehow and all the time connected with the national agenda, and the planning framework has to be at the national level, not the local level. Next. And after our MGB, also many helps, and I exceeded my 5 minutes time, okay, but I'm finishing. And after we prepared the MGP, GAM also worked on launching many strategies. From 2007, we had Amman Resilience Strategy. Then we had the first Amman climate plan. We are the only city in Jordan that we have our all plan, climate plan. And we have also the Amman Green City Action Plan. And nowadays, Amman is working on its Amman Smarter City Roadmap, started in 2021 and is still working on it. Next. This is the piece of work that we are very proud about, and we are about to finish it in the coming by the end of June. This is a new, totally new urban planning bylaw. We as Amman, we and the whole of Jordan, we work under the umbrella of a law that goes to 1966. And we could not come out from this law because it's a law, and we as a local government it wasn't for us easy to change this law. So we decided as GAM to work on a bylaw ourselves. And in this bylaw, we are actually addressing, and we put many important issues like the sustainable development, where we have many paragraphs about the green buildings and the green neighborhoods and greening the city. And we also have very important paragraphs on how important is the community engagement has to be through the whole planning exercise. And at the same time, we also address the heritage and the conservation of the very important sites in the city. Next, please. And this is just to show that the whole exercise of preparing like Amman plan. This is going to be in our bylaw. The engagement of the public and the hearing for the public it's going to be a very important part of it. And while preparing any a plan at the city level or a district level. Next. I think this is my last slide, which also explains that from the urban national agenda, we go down to planning at the neighborhood level. And at the neighborhood levels, we have different categories and needs, where as planners, we have to take care of and look at the details of neighborhood level to make them sustainable and to make them sustainable neighborhoods. I think that's it for me for my presentation.
Thank you very much, Rima, for this presentation, for showing us the maps, the schemas to understand better how Amman is working on the planning frameworks and how it's integrating also the SDGs within these plans. It is a very inspiring example. And just as a follow-up question, I would like to ask you if you could give a piece of advice for the other cities that are joining this meeting on how to integrate the SDGs into planning. What would you tell them?
I tell you, as a municipality, we have challenges in the capacity building, which is very important in doing any planning exercise, planning work. Currently, we've been like building and working on the capacity building, but it's not easy. And all the people that you hire all the people that you hire for the municipality, you need to do proper training for them, because as a municipality, we take true decisions over the land. It's not only like studies and we put on the shelf. It's a decision that affects the life of the people and the life of the residents of the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would say that this is a piece of recommendations particularly relevant for this session, as we are launching a module that we hope can help in strengthening the capacities of these local governments in Amman, in other cities in Jordan, as well as worldwide. Because indeed, and sometimes it's not only about capacity building, but also awareness on the SDGs that most of the times is also lacking at the local levels. Thank you very much, Rima. It has been a very interesting presentation on the case of Amman. Please do not hesitate to share on the chat any link to websites, so the rest of the participants can also have a look into the details of this experience.
Yes,
thank you. And from here, we are moving to our third and last speaker, Diana Daher. Welcome to the panel. You are the manager of citizen participation at Fundación Corona, and also a member of People Power's board. And you have experience in working on the intersection between political inclusion and public and social innovation, which is particularly relevant for planning. The point on participation in the module, it's highlighted across the different chapters. And based on the experience of Fundación Corona, we wanted to hear from you. How can we ensure that the participation of civil society is integrated in planning processes? Diana, the floor is yours.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank you, Claudia, for the invitation, and also to congratulate all the team on the launching of this module. It's indeed a very important tool for both governments and civil society organizations worldwide to advance the agenda of localization of SDGs. So I want to answer your question mainly with two main messages. First, why do we talk about citizen participation in planning processes? Why it is important, and then address the question on how to advance citizen participation in planning processes. So the why is very basic, but often it's not taken very seriously. We often assume that planning is about experts, about the people that have the degrees on planning processes and know about urban planning. And that's very important to have that technical support, but more often than not, citizens know better than anyone else what they need. And involving citizens and civil society in planning processes, it's a guarantee for those policies and the planning agenda to be aware of the needs of the citizens, address those needs, and create solutions that are targeted to the problems that people experience in their communities. So the solutions that are prioritized are not only important because of the public agenda, but also because they tackle the problems that are at the heart of the citizens' needs. So that's why citizen participation is so important in planning processes. And now, how can we ensure that participation in planning processes? I want to talk about two main ideas. The first one is to include participation by design. And the second idea is to strengthen civil society. So what do I mean with participation by design? In many cases, participation is often a checkbox, something that you throw out a consultation because it's required in the process to ask citizens what they think about this policy. And often those participation processes are not tailored to the citizens' needs, to how they experience the world, to how the barriers of participation that they have, and that leads to results of very low participation and very low trust in governments. Just to give you an example, in Bogota, the capital of Colombia, where I live, only 1 out of 10 citizens participate in public consultation. So including participation by design implies to ask citizens also how do they want to participate, and then acknowledge that into the design process of the participatory consultation. Let me give you just one example of how we're doing it in Bogota, actually, to address that very low level of participation that I'm talking about. With the Town Hall of Bogota, we created an alliance, also with an organization that's called Instituto, and the Town Hall of Bogota and Fundación Corona, to create a process that we have called meta deliberation, which is basically a deliberation with citizens to discuss in a public assembly how do they want to design a deliberative assembly that will be happening for the next 3 years, to ask citizens the main their recommendations about main policy issues. So instead of having a previously tailor-made a previous design made by the experts to consult the citizens in a public deliberation assembly, they are taking a step back, and in a multi-stakeholder partnership, we're designing a process of deliberation, of the actual process of deliberation. So we, on the design level, actually address the needs of the citizens in the assembly. So it's a process of including design thinking and a user-centered design approach to the design of participation. So we actually acknowledge how citizens experience the world in the design of the citizens' assembly. So just that's one example of the first idea on participation by design. But I also mentioned the need of strengthening civil society. So to have a high level of participation, we need to have a strengthened civil society. we need to have citizens that believe in the government, that believe that what they are saying in the participation is actually taken into account, and we need to have capacity on civil society to be able to address the consultation. So how can we strengthen civil society? I want just to give you two ideas so I can be very mindful of my 5 minutes. The first one is that there are already a lot of amazing projects of civil society on localization of SDGs. For instance, the network of citizens of Como Vamos, how we're doing, which is a project of civil society happening in more than 20 cities of Colombia, has done a project of localization of SDGs, creating a tool for local governments to create indicators on localization, and this has actually been used so far by governments such as Manizales to advance their localization of SDGs agenda. So that's just one of example of acknowledging the hard work of civil society on advancing SDGs, and it's a way of strengthening civil society, of acknowledging their work and creating partnerships as well with civil society to localize SDGs is also a way of ensuring that participation. And the last idea is the importance of build capacity on civil society organizations. For instance, supporting with funding projects of civil society organizations on localizations of SDGs, also removing barriers for participation is also a way of building that capacity. It's very it creates a lot of worry that there's let's say a civil society space that is being threatened the past years, and building that capacity on civil society and strengthening civil society is a way forward to tackle the difficulties that civil society is experiencing worldwide. So hopefully those two ideas, participation by design and strengthening civil society, can help supporting the localization of SDGs and the participation of civil society in the SDG agenda.
Diana, thank you very much for this complete reply and for keeping the time. It is great to reflect on the why and also on how we can do it, because it is important. It is acknowledged that it's important, but sometimes we don't get to the bottom of the problem, and we don't address the problem itself. So thank you for sharing these insights on how actually this can be improved, and the integration of the civil society into the planning processes can happen. I would just like to ask one final follow-up question for you, which will be, how can then ensure that participation doesn't happen on an ad hoc basis, but that is institutionalized within municipalities?
Thanks, Claudia. That's a very important question, because we see very often what's called one-shot participatory innovation. So basically, innovations in participation that happen one time but are not sustained. So this question tackles that problem. How can we sustain participation in time? And I want to advance two main ideas to answer that question. The first one is the importance of building trust to have a sustainable change in participation. So in many cases, consultations only happen one time because very few people participate, and out of that people, many of them believe that nothing happened after the consultation. So building trust means being responsive to the participation of civil society, and being able to answer to civil society what happened after the consultation took place. But when we have very low levels of participation of civil society, and encouraging citizens to participate requires a huge level of ask. So a very interesting example on how to build trust in this participation, to have a sustained level of participation, comes out of a municipality in Colombia called Jumbo. They have an amazing website and platform for participation, and now they are asking people about how to advance the SDGs in their planning processes. But a few months ago, they experienced very low participation in public consultation. So they realized that if they started asking citizens big questions such as what are the main problems in your neighborhood, or what do you think is the most important SDG, people were not really going to participate because they did not trust the government. They did not believe that something was going to happen out of that. So the municipality of Jumbo made a very smart decision, which was to start asking citizens very basic questions about everyday things that they were experiencing. They launched this in December when lots of holidays and public celebrations were taking place. So they launched the platform and started to ask citizens things such as what singer they wanted to be like the main artist invited to the party of the town. They asked what they thought that should be the name of the football team, and questions that were more at the cultural and art sphere, but that served as a way of engaging the attention of citizens and then taking them to the big questions that they wanted to ask. So after that, they started asking, what are the main problems at your municipality? What do you think is the most important SDG? So I just want out of this example to show you very clearly that trust is something that you build with time. It's a process, and it's a relationship. So when we're asking citizens about big planning processes, it's important to acknowledge how citizens experience participation and to build that relationship first. And just to finish, the second thought to answer the question is about the need of institutionalizing participatory mechanisms. So many times we have amazing consultations that happen because there's a political will of the mayor or the lead of the project, but then once that person leaves office, the process is not sustained. So it's important to have an institutionalized process of participation that is not dependent on the political will of the people that is holding power. The politicians come and go, but civil society stays. So it's important to have those mechanisms sustaining time, no matter who is in charge. So with people powered, for instance, and a project of Rockefeller and the Brookings Institute called 17 Rooms, where we devised different strategies for the institutionalization of participatory mechanisms, such as identifying best practices worldwide. But the main take is the need to build awareness on since the design of the participatory mechanism on the need of institutionalizing it. Otherwise, you're creating expectations from citizens that are not going to be met in time, and that is worse than not creating any participatory mechanism at all in the first place. So I do think that the module and that is launched today is a very important guide and tool to continue supporting the role of civil society in the participation of planning processes and keep on building that trust and institutionalizing participatory mechanisms. So thank you very much, Claudia, and all the team for giving this amazing tool, and congratulations on the hard work, and hope it can be used broadly worldwide.
Thank you very much, Diana, again for your thoughts, your clear ideas, the examples that you have shared, the practical examples. Again, you're welcome to share some of the links on the chat, so everyone can have a look. And actually, thanks to you and to the work that the civil society, local governments, national governments are doing, because this is what inspires the development and the update of the module. And something that has been mentioned before, this module collects some of the updated practices and methodologies that we have collected from real cases. So thanks a lot for replying to the questions in a timely manner, in a very clear way. The panel is not over yet, and we are going to open the floor for some questions directed to the three panelists, and also to hear some of the other experiences from different contexts. We know that we are 10 minutes late, and we apologize for that. But as Sarah was saying in the chat, we are very, very interested in getting to know your feedback, other experiences, and in solving some of the questions that you might have. So please either raise your hands, and I will give you the floor, or write your questions on the chat. Jawed Khan, please. I think you're muted.
Thank you very, very much, Claudia. Sarah and Martino, we are very excited, and it was a very useful session, and it's a very excellent, program, because I am the country manager of UN Habitat Pakistan, and we are in dire need of support, because Islamabad is the capital city of Pakistan, and we are launching a training program. And the Director General of Planning of Islamabad Capital Development Authority has also joined this program. He is with us. And we are trying to just launch a pilot from Islamabad, the capital city, and then reach out to all cities of Pakistan on SDG 11 compliance and capacity building. So it's an excellent platform. I really appreciate and would like very much to remain closely connected to all Sarah, Martino, Claudia, and Alexander from the spatial planning, and Rima. These are good learning, so we should share the experiences and try to learn and disseminate the good mechanisms and the good methods that really works. So that is the real need, because otherwise my experience that all SDGs are moving pretty well, but the SDG 11 is really far way behind. So we can only catch up with each other's support and try to really demonstrate that how we can fill up the gap. So I have no other comments to make, but I am really looking forward to learn more and absorb more the good experiences that is going around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jawed, for contributing to this discussion, also for the different comments that you have left on the chat. And indeed, let's keep sharing, let's keep learning from each other. There are so many good practices around the world, and it's sometimes difficult to get to know them. And this is also one of the intentions that UCLG has, that even in UN Habitat, we're also trying to promote, to connect. So thank you for joining us, and surely we can stay in touch and promote more of these exchanges. Thank you, Jawed.
Thank you very much.
I'm checking if there is any other hand. I'm not seeing any, but in the meantime, there was one question directed to Rima from Dr. Safar Iqbal Safar, about how Amman manages to align urban planning practices with the SDGs. So Rima, would like to give you the floor to respond to this question.
Thank you, Zafar. Thank you, Claudia. Actually, I was showing the good cases and the good practices in my presentation. How did we mainstream some SDGs in our work? Through proper land use planning, through proper also transportation planning. This is not in my domain, but in other transport, in the transport sector. And also through looking at the climate action plan that we prepared for the city, that we are aiming for zero emissions in 2050. And this is not only a title or a vision, it has to be practiced and tailored to actions to all over the sectors that work in the municipality. And we have many good documents for Amman City. I invite everyone to look at them and see. I might share this climate action plan with you. And these are some of the examples. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rima, for providing a reply to that question. Checking again if there is any other question or comment that you would like to share in this session. And otherwise, I would just like to, there was one comment on the chat, again from Dr. Safar Iqbal Safar, explaining that Islamabad is a good experience, has a good experience on the 15-minute city. So I wanted to check if maybe Dr. Safar would like to tell us a bit more about this experience. Or otherwise, maybe we can read it online.
Thank you, Claudia. I am Dr. Zafar Iqbal Zafar, as Javed Ali Khan told that I am working as Director General Planning and Capital Development Authority, Islamabad. Islamabad is a planned city which was planned in 1960, and its implementation was started in 1961. The pattern of planning of Islamabad is grid-arranged pattern, in which Islamabad has been subdivided into different communities. Each sector is called a community class 5. And this is a residential community or maybe an institutional or recreational. So if we look at the residential community, this is a walkable neighborhood of about 4 square kilometers, having its central market in the center, which is called Markaz. This Markaz comprises of commercial area, the institutional area, the religious buildings, recreational area, social activities. This is a sort of civic center for the community, which is accessible to the community at a walk of 15 minutes without any interaction of man and machine. So a walkable city where each and every facility is available to the residents at a walkable distance. So that was my comment, which was, I think I have explained well.
Thank you very much, and indeed, it's a really good practice, and we would love to read more about it if you have more documentation.
Surely, if you give me a time, I can in next session I can give a presentation on the planning of Islamabad and what we are practicing and the challenges we are facing in implementation or achieving the targets of SDGs. As Javed Ali Khan explained that we have jointly prepared a program with the UN Habitat and the Capital Development Authority to increase the capacity of the urban planners and the practitioners regarding implementation of SDGs and how we can achieve the targets as per the requirements by 2030.
Thank you very, very much for these details. I see that there is one last question in the chat about the policy on digital infrastructure and digital security in planning processes in cities. I think that as we are running a bit, we're running late with the schedule. So I wanted to invite Rima, Alessandra, Diana, or anyone else in this room to reply to this question in the chat. While I see that Mehmet Duman has the hand up.
Thank you, distinguished participants, dear colleagues. First of all, let me congratulate Sarah and her team and other colleagues from UN Habitat for their valuable contributions. I think this model puts in place the aspects for the planning at the local action. Thank you for this exceptional work, and we look forward to having more activities where we can adopt the practices underlined in the module for our implementation at the territorial planning level. We have previously benefited from the modules designed by UCLG Learning and UN Habitat to raise awarenesses among the municipal staff in the form of training of trainers for decentralized cooperation and city-to-city diplomacy in territorial planning. The training on the localization of SDGs and many similar events. The use of interactive gaming practices in the modules are the key to make it clear to the beneficiaries of the training and modules. Therefore, I believe we can develop more useful and engaging games as a vital tool for the capacity building. We are also glad to have listened to our colleague from Greater Amman municipality that shows our intent to intensify localization of SDGs in Meva region. We are also looking up to our local leaders for their commitments in institutionalization, the practices underlined in the modules. We are hopeful and excited to have more action on this model in support of our works as we move forward to the next half of this year. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mehmet Duman, for making this contribution and for highlighting the relevance of this module within the region, and also, I guess that extrapolates globally as well. Thank you for this. And that being said, I will give the floor to Sarah Hoplitz again for the closing remarks. But before that, I will just to thank once again the three panelists for sharing their experiences with us. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Claudia, and thank you very much to the speakers. I think that all shows how meaningful and how important is planning. I think the essence of Rima when she says it is a truth that you have a possibility because decisions are taken and land is used, and this weight of the different opportunities provided then involving stakeholders as all of you have highlighted, but understanding how to do this, I think this is definitely our big challenge. So on one hand, demystify planning exercises, because everybody has to think the city, plan the cities, but it's not only an ad hoc action. There are many instruments, many political frameworks, many ways how decisions are taken. And of course, we want to help that this is understood and comprehensive. And your reactions have been extremely positive and well thought. So we see you understand the work done. And I just would like to, for the closing, of course, say that this is not all. Now we have a very nice product which we will polish further. We have really the two teams are fully engaged, both Martino's and my teams, and also as you have seen, our leadership. But we also will not only go to Georgia. We are, of course, hearing you well, Mehmet Duman, and also Islamabad and your ideas. We also have several regional sections here. My colleague from Platforma, we have African colleagues. We are, of course, interested to bring this beyond a document. We know it's not automatic. You read and then you are a trainer. So we have gone through this process. We also will do an update with my colleague Fernando, who is looking into the online work. We have an online course. So for all of you that got interested, this is a first option, we can say. We try in the next rollout of the SDG course in November or October to include this module with all the innovation it has been brought up. We also will do, of course, more online opportunities. Claudia, I think, made you yourself very curious. You probably are very interested in any of the games. So we do this. We create this opportunity. This is all online, but we also do sometimes roll out on site. Now in Georgia, this will be one opportunity, but then other opportunities have to be looked at. Traditionally, we go at least once in a region, because always our regional sections are our leaders at least towards this, because we cannot go punctually. So we always look into this together with our regional section, UN Habitat also with the regional branches. So in the case that you see this coming up, that preparation is not just market and hello, we would like, but it would be a little bit of consolidation of the important actors so that this can be milestones in the regions. And of course, we have to look into this very carefully regarding time. We do not have foreseen funding for this, so that is all an issue. But you all know this, and it is a construction that requires time. But we have done it before. So as Dr. Duman was saying, we always create opportunities. And we are here to continue this work. So from the immediate follow-up, we have collected your email addresses. Many of you would like to have more of the material. In this moment, we cannot give you all the material because it is still the final draft. It is not the final. But we take it as your interest, and we hope that you are the trainers of tomorrow. So keep connected, and this idea also of teachers and professors that you want to use material, this is very important to us. And of course, we are happy not only to provide material, but it is very important for us to know that you are doing it, and if and how and who has been participating, because only the real rollout story then will enable us to continue. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for your long listening. We hope it was interesting, and in any case, sorry for inconveniences or maybe some. We got a little bit long, but we are here to continue, and we are here to further build milestones together with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.